apparently we're live. We're live on YouTube Live. So let's talk about the first couple things we got to talk about. And first thing is, let's maybe pop over to YouTube and see what the hell's going on, see if we're actually live. You got the ability to do that on your end?
Yeah, we are. I just got a notification.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah, there we are. All right, first ever YouTube Live. First and foremost, Mr. Gobby, let's talk about, what to do. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do that down at the bottom of the screen. Hit the bell for notifications so you can get notified when we go live and also when we post new content. In the links description also, or in the video description on all of our videos. I don't know what's going to be up on this one quite yet, but we got merch on our Cafe Press site, so we do have official t-shirt partners. We have our sponsors, Smirnoff Ice, as usual. And we have our Arm Assassin Strength Shop, armassassin.com. And we also have Garage Door Guys in KC, Brian Kerner. Thank you very much for the sponsorship, guys. Here's one thing I got to mention real fast is our Patreon site. I have disabled Tier 1. Tier 1 was a $2 membership. So the guys that did sign on for the $2 membership, they're going to stay on there. I'm not going to boot them off or anything like it. We appreciate the support in any form, but we only have one tier now, and it's just the $5 tier. So tier 1, we got Brandon Irwin, we got Jorn Harold Habu. Tier 2, we got Bernie Marcocia, Zane William Nisley, and Jordan Yoakum. And I'm talking about Patreon a little bit more because the contest that's running right now, the $50 certificate to Arm Assassin Strength Shop is going to be drawn at the end of December amongst the Patreon members. So all the Patreon members, when you sign up, it's $5 to get in on it, and you're going to end up getting drawn for $50. You got exclusive content over there. You have access to the Travis video that we keep talking about that's going to get posted once we hit 1,000 subscribers. And you okay, buddy? And yeah, that's it, man. Other than that, we have a lot to talk about.
Big time, big weekend.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to do before we get any further is just mention that December the 14th, the Mark Davies Memorial Arm Wrestling Tournament's happening in North Dakota. Please search that out on Facebook and go down and support that event. As of now, I have given my notice at my job that I'm working one of my jobs. So I do have to work that day. I'm not going to be able to get that day off. It's part of my last few shifts I end up working. So where do you want to start, Mr. Gobby? We've got the IFA Worlds that just happened. And as part of the IFA Worlds, we have the top 8 finals. And then we also have the Zloty Tur.
Well, let's go chronologically. So I guess it was the IFA Worlds that started it off.
All right, we're going chronologically. I have all of the results. Killing trees. I printed them all out this morning. You want to give a quick shout out to our Canadian brothers that have gone over there?
Well, I know Rick Pickney. I know Gary Anderson. Is it Gary Anderson? It's Anderson. Am I getting right? It's Gary. Been pulling Canadian Worlds, Canadian Nationals, dawn of time.
Why am I drawing a blank now? It's Gary McDonald.
Yeah, he got gold. Big shout out to him. Yeah, he's a fervent supporter. I remember him back to when I started being in all the Nationals and Worlds and giving full support. And I believe it's his first world title in Masters or Grandmasters. I don't know which class.
I think it's Grand, but Gary's been around forever. He was there. He was there, I think, in 2001.
Yeah.
When I was at my first Worlds and pulling well over there. We got a bunch of juniors that did really well. Dre Denny, Liam Johnson in the 80 kilo class. We've got, I'm just going to flip through here fast because there's some honorable mentions. I mean, we got our friend Sean Hancock from the USA placing top 4 in the 105. Pete Durning from Canada, that same class, 13th place. So, and these are some huge classes. Colin Vanderstein from Canada getting 5th in the Masters Men 90 kilo, while Joe Fox and Sean Weaver get 13th and 14th respectively. So what do you think of the tournament overall? Like the
how many? I tried to get this information. I couldn't. How many countries represented? Was it 30, 40, 20, 15? Do we have that number?
if I'm looking at, say, the biggest class, okay, I don't know how many in total, but we do have representatives from the UK, Canada, USA, Sweden, Georgia, Poland, Finland, Japan, Azerbaijan, South Africa, Denmark, so Iran.
Was Russia not involved?
There is Russians here. Yeah, there's Russians at this event.
Okay.
And some of the best Russians. I mean, Dmitry Salayev never pulled in the World Championship event, but he did, as we said, pull in the Zloty Tur, which is good enough to get him a ban from WAF.
Yeah. My initial reaction is good. I think for their first year, I think they did pretty good because I mean, a lot of people had to make tough decisions on what side of the fence to jump to. Not an easy decision, especially when you're dealing with the repercussions of being banned. So considering what was at stake, the amount of volume they got, I think it's huge. Looking forward into the future for that association, I think it can only get bigger. I think as they get bigger, WAF will fade, will get smaller, and eventually the complete power will go over to them. I'm hoping, but it seemed like the feedback was great. The technical aspect of it, the stage, the lighting, the table, I mean, everything seemed super legit. It looked awesome. I haven't seen any negative feedback online.
Well, Igor runs a tight ship.
Yeah.
Bear, quiet. Mailman.
Goddamn
mailman disrespecting our podcast.
Bastard. Legit world titles. I read a few things. People a little bit skeptical and calling it a watered down title only because. But you can also say that with WAF in the years past because not necessarily every single the best of each weight class end up going. So I mean, you could always say that. But I mean, we have Alan Fisher and Michael Todd running around saying they're a 25, 35-time world champion. So if they can go around saying these things and they've never had a WAF title, they've only had these pro league titles. I mean, so a title is a title. I just hope at one point IFA gets big enough where they can stomp on WAF and they're the sole world tournament.
Well, it's interesting because, oh geez, we do have some comments coming in. Anytime you split the talent pool, you could argue that it is not as hard. But that being said, you have, well, arguably, WAF had some tougher classes than IFA. You take a look, Cody Merritt's in the comments section. Cody Merritt, being the champion of WAF, legitimizes that WAF title in that particular class.
Mm-hmm.
In the IFA version of that class, I've never heard of the guys that were there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a Canadian world champion in there. Paula O'Connell won the Grandmasters Women Left 60 kilogram class. So congratulations to her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think of the announcement, though? I mean, here we have Cody Merritt commented, said Dean from Wells said that there were 5 people in the Masters super heavyweight week left in class. Okay. What do you think of the big announcement of their location for next year?
Orlando? Is that it?
Orlando.
Well, it's dynamite. My issue, of course, is I asked Rick if I'm going to have to qualify, and he's like, well, you don't have to qualify to go to Orlando, but Canada wants to get in with them so that we must qualify so that because of course you got to, and I don't agree with this, because to safeguard, because if any Canadian can just go to the Worlds and not have to qualify, our Canadians would be shit, because they hold that pressure, they hold that trump card of, oh, you want to go to Worlds, well, now you have to go to Canadians, so we're forced to go to Canadians to represent, to go to Worlds. And if they lost that power, they'd be resting on their own merit, which is not much. You wouldn't have a huge nationals. So I don't like that they feel they have to use that as leverage so that they feel their tournament is substantiated. So that's going to piss me off if I have to qualify. If I don't have to qualify, I'll be in Orlando if I have to. It's a big middle finger to CAWF, and
Come on, Gobby. You're not going to come to Winnipeg?
it doesn't even matter where it is. It can be in Montreal. The principle that I have to go spend money and qualify to go to a tournament that doesn't require qualification, because our Canadians nationals want us to do it, not on principle, because they apparently stand on freedom, because they didn't jump on the boat with WAF. But they're doing it to safeguard their own investment and to not look as feeble as they might look. Fuck off. I don't like that. Let people do what they want. If you get tons coming to your event, it means it has value. If it doesn't, but to hold another tournament as leverage so that they can gain entry fees by controlling that avenue, I'm not a fan of that. And on principle, I wouldn't go.
Well, I've always appreciated the purity of the qualifying process, if the intention is right, not necessarily forcing someone to go to the national championships to qualify, but that there is a way there is a path to get to that level. Because to be honest, I don't want to see anybody entering the tournament. I don't need to pull 75 novice pullers because they're from Orlando or from the Florida area.
Dude, imagine if every class can get 80, 90, 100 people and you run 16 tables. Could you imagine the fucking money, the flow of money coming into that tournament? I mean,
we saw that once. There was, 7 broken arms at World Arm Wrestling League?
If someone's stupid enough to not have any experience, if I'm training a guy and he's got a year experience, well, I want to go to Worlds, and I'm like, well, have you won any tournaments, any legit tournaments? He's like, no, but I finished 5th once. You're an idiot. I mean, you're gonna go and let them get hurt. I mean, if people, we can't stop stupid people from doing stupid things, but it will benefit the sport and inevitably benefit the IFA. You're still going to have the studs. You're just, I just, the fear of, we don't want people to sign up. We don't want people to participate because it might be dangerous for them. Look, man, you want to come pull. You're not going to do well. You might even get hurt. But, hey, man, it's an opportunistic society. Do what you want. But we're not stopping you. We're not preventing you from coming because what might happen. The more the merrier. I don't know.
Well, it's an interesting, I will concede that to you only because what they're doing right now doesn't work super well. So it hasn't successfully grown the sport as it is. So Cody Merritt makes a good point, though. 70 or 80 competitors in one class, 50 to 60 of those are Americans and Canadians. Doesn't seem like a world championship to me. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely.
But preventing 80% of that class not to show up does. Like, you're still going to have 2 Russians. You're going to have South Americans. You're going to have Italian. So you make it more legitimate by preventing entry fees. So it's more legitimate of a world title by preventing the entry of 30 to 40 people, because why? Or is it because one of these guys can hang you up and fuck up your day? Endurance will be a bigger factor. People will have to come in with a shitload of conditioning because you might have to win 15 matches. God forbid you go to the B-side early, you might have to win 25 matches, which makes the title more legitimate. It's impressive as hell. But I think people subconsciously fear this shit. They want to run and pay their $2,000 and travel, and they want to fucking sometimes buy a title or try to somehow get shoehorn into a podium position. Like,
well, it'll be interesting to see which way Canada decides to go, because if we do support, I find what the United States is doing a little bit fascinating with the 4 different qualifiers. throughout the United States. What will they call those tournaments? I mean, you can't call them a national championship. I guess you just call them a world qualifier.
But why can't you? You can't.
You could, but there'll be 4 of them.
What's stopping me from running in Montreal a world qualification, Montreal Open / Canadian Nationals, and closing it off to anyone under 5'8", 160 pounds, white, and giving me my automatic qualification to Worlds without having to spend more than 5 cents. Why can't I do that? If Canadians can do that, why can't I do that?
Aside from calling it a hate crime, yeah, I guess you could do that.
Because it's self-serving. Well, but you can't go to Canadians unless you go to provincials. Like they're doing the same thing. They just call it a selfless act of nationalism. I'm calling it what it is. Me doing what's in my best interest, just like they're doing if they prevent us going straight to World without qualification. It's self-serving because you fear a shitty nationals, because people are going to say, fuck, why am I going to spend $2,000 to travel to Winnipeg when I could just save that money and just go right to Orlando? The reason is because small petty men are scared. That's why. That's the reason.
It's interesting. I mean, I see your point. I don't agree with it completely, but I see your point, especially in Canada, where if you live in, let's say, the Ukraine, your national championships is not going to be that far away from where you live any particular year. Or if you're in Moldova, or if you're in Georgia, you know where it's going to be. Canada.
But tell me why you disagree. Where's your disagreement is on what platform?
Because I think that you should have to achieve something special in order to qualify and get you to that next step of the World Championship.
So going to nationals, paying a $70 entry fee, spending hotel anywhere up to $1,000 to $2,500 to pull a master's class that might have 4 people in it. So I need basically 1 buy or 1 win to get me to Worlds. This is what makes me a special athlete. Because let's face it, there are a shitload of national title holders walking around there that aren't worth shit on a real at Arnold Classic. But that's not the point, is it? It's not about that's because at the end of the day, I think deeply why you and many disagree is because you're purists when it comes to having a nationals, and you're scared that we're gonna have 103 entries to nationals instead of 500, because people are just gonna navigate way right across it or right around it and go right to Worlds and have one massive awesome vacation and arm wrestling experience in Orlando. You're fighting on logistics and safeguarding the national name. I'm running on pure practicality and principle.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I think you should have to place top 2. It's not about protecting the nationals for me. It's about achieving the right to go and represent your country somewhere else.
So, but how many people go to Worlds by qualifying at nationals, at Canadian nationals, where there's only 2 in their class or 3? That's
true.
But they're still going. We collect their $120. They're still going. Yeah. And they're legitimate because they finished top 2. But if they went to a real tournament, they wouldn't even get a win. But it's not about that, is it? It's about, we got their money. They were an entry fee and an added participant to our event. Because it's not about, we don't want them to go there and get hurt because they don't have the experience, because many national title holders don't have the experience to pull in a real pro event. But that doesn't bother us because we already have their money.
Well, let's use the Olympics, for example. Should anyone be able to show up and just enter into the Olympic Games?
Fucking right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to enter in track next year.
No, you're not. Because you'll get embarrassed. Just like I'm not going to go for shot put. We say this, I'm just going to go. But you're not, because it's going to cost you money. You're going to end up looking like a tool. But you can. I mean, there could be, for example, at the World, for example, let's say you're going to the Olympics and you're saying, well, I'm Ryan Espy and I'm representing Canada as a 500 meter or 600 meter runner. And they're going to look at you and say, okay, go run a mile. If you can run a mile under 8 minutes, we'll let you do it. And you're like, well, I can't. Well, then fuck off. So we will have a qualification, but just to make sure you're safe and not drudging your bullshit on our arena. So maybe Orlando or Worlds can have not a qualification, but how many tournaments prove to us how often or how many tournaments you've pulled. And if it can be proved in the qualification, not in the qualification, but in the process of applying or getting whatever it is, just in the registration process, prove that you have X amount of experience, so be it. What does that experience need to come through nationals? Why can't you live in Ohio and have gone to the Arnold Classic because you're 20 minutes away? Oh, that's not legit. That doesn't make you a legit arm wrestler. You have to fly across the country and go to nationals. Then we will deem that you're safe to pull at our worlds. It's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. There's ways to make it safe so people don't get hurt, and people with experience, you can do this without having to come to nationals. Force people to come to nationals, which is not a legit tournament. If you pull open, for sure, you have to be a decent arm wrestler to win an open class at nationals, because there's going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 people. But a third of all the classes are juniors, masters, grandmasters, super platinum grandmasters with 1 to 3 people. Women's classes are littered with 1 to 3 people. Oh, look, I'm a national title holder. I'm going to go to Worlds. Yeah, you won 1 match. I mean, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Go to nationals. You're a purist.
Yeah, well, you can't make them show up. That's the thing. I mean, you're still the best of the people that took the time.
For sure. Nothing against them. Nothing against them. You go and you don't know if 5 people are going to show up or no one's going to show up. And it's all good. It's the people that create the process that my beef is with. Saying, well, we don't want just anyone showing up at Worlds. But that's bullshit, because if you just wanted safe, qualified people to go to Worlds, you just make sure they go to Arnold's. Go to 1 tournament, or pull for a year, get 6 tournaments under your belt, get 100 matches under your belt. And it's not hard to prove it. And then boom, we know you can pull safely. You're not a novice. You're not a green. And boom, go represent your country. Free willingly go pull at Worlds. Why not? But that's not what they're doing. They're saying, come to our nationals, pay our extravagant fee so we can bring in our refs that we want to bring in. We can have our VPs spend a week in a hotel. Okay, it's political bullshit and corruption, and it's all under the name of selflessness and nationalism. It's not, or it's not.
Well, let me ask you. This is Stan Scott makes this comment, and he's one of the guys that's organizing the national championships in 2020. Says it's not only money. I find that these nationals do build community across the country and generate interest within Canada.
He's right. So go, by all means. Like, you would still go. There's many people would still go. But if the reason you're going is because I want to go to Worlds and I have no choice to drop $2,000 or $3,000 because I got to go with my kids and my wife, she's competing. Let the people that are pure at heart want to go to nationals without having leverage over them, is my point.
Well, we can do this. Like, there is a path that we can just send whoever we want to the World Championship, the IFA Worlds. But ironically, that path is to not vote to support the IFA.
But the IFA is not asking for qualification. Rick says right now, as is, no one has to qualify to go to Worlds unless CAWF decides to go in with or be a member. I forget how he worded it, but in that case, you would have to go to nationals to qualify. But if we don't, you can automatically qualify, and any Canadian can go. IFA is doing nothing wrong. IFA is saying our door is open. Come and let's have fun. Let's see who's the best. No one is, we're precluding or, everyone's welcome. It's Canada that wants to say, well, no, let's have the path go through our nationals, because if it doesn't, no one's coming to nationals, and that scares the shit out of them. But so they're not doing it on principle or safety, or they're doing it on selfishness.
Well, I mean, that being said, the Nationals still gets a lot of arm wrestlers when the team ends up being 8 guys, because it's somewhere that no one wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that a lot.
And I have a feeling that if the Worlds next year was in fucking China or some isolated, not beautiful or cold area, Canada would say, yeah, go, whatever, knowing that only like 3 people would actually go in their pocket and go. But now that's in Orlando, and a ton of people, like 80% of the arm wrestling population is considering going. Canada's like, well, if you have to qualify through us, we might get 800 entries and fill our pockets. And Rick, if you're listening, don't fucking nod your head, man. I know how I love you, Rick, but you live a political game. You look at a certain window. But that's what they're looking at, and they'll say, well, no, it's principle. It's not fucking principle. It's not fucking principle.
So what are you saying? Where do you stand? Do you think the Canadian Arm Wrestling Federation should vote to support the IFA? or go to WAF. Now, when I say this, let me segue to, there's a bunch of shiny objects being thrown out there by both sides. Obviously, the trump card is that it's in Orlando. And with the old WAF, we probably wouldn't have seen a North American World Championship for decades. Now we have that opportunity. But on the flip side of it, we have the offer and the threat that here you can go to the World Games in the States, but it's under the WAF banner. You can go to the Pan American Games in Costa Rica, but it's under the WAF banner. And you can go to the North American Championships in Mexico, but it's under the WAF banner. But if you vote for IFA, you lose all that stuff.
Well, you have complete freedom. You as a Canadian citizen go represent yourself and your country without political qualification. Now, if IFA is saying, well, if Canada goes, they have to be a member, then they're essentially WAF. But they're not doing that. It's Canada that's saying, well, we want to sign in only so that Canadians that want to go to Worlds in Orlando will have to qualify through us at Nationals, and we get the legitimacy and the money. And
well, there's option 3. Option 3 is that we do not pick a side ever, and we do not bend to WAF or IFA saying pick a side. Now, what that will essentially do is make a choice that while we don't have to have a qualifying process for the IFA, we can still go to their tournament and be welcomed with open arms. But WAF will, if they do what they say they're going to do, ban all those that participate in IFA or WRPA or PAL events.
Fuck WAF. WAF is a sinking ship. The shit they pulled, they're a sinking ship. Will it be underwater in 1 year or 5? I don't know, but they're sinking. The arm wrestling world will not tolerate this level of power-hungry political. They won't do it. All this bullshit and threats for people that just want to give their money and participate in a sport that they love will not work. It's petty men trying to gain power through politics. It doesn't work, and it's not a perfect world. And I think Canada should say, and the IFA is not asking us or saying you need to be under our banner to go to Worlds. They're not saying that. So we don't have to make a decision.
You're right. We don't.
But what we can do is over time send 600 to 1,500 Canadians to IFA when WAF is getting 5. The next year it'll be 1,700 to 3. And that is giving full support to the IFA without having to sign in. And they know it. They see it. The downside is our Canadian nationals will be just that, our Canadian nationals, not a qualification process, Canadian nationals.
Gobby, through our debate, I believe we have solved the problem in that we just do not vote and we support where we want to support.
Isn't that part of the North America, USA, Canadian mantra is free to do what you want? Within reason.
Unfortunately, the USA has already gone down the path of forcing qualifiers for the Orlando event. They could have 2,000 Americans show up there if they didn't have those qualifiers.
Good.
Interesting. Well, I won't be a part of the executive that votes on this for the CAWF, but I may be a part of the executive right after it. It'll be interesting because I think a vote will get called.
What's the biggest arm wrestling tournament in terms of prestige and volume we've ever seen in the history of our sport?
Oh man!
Okay,
over the top.
Yeah, over the top. And I believe I heard Over the Top had 100 participants in one class. So that's crazy. Like that's not legit. Anyone could pull. Yeah, yet it's still the most prestigious arm wrestling tournament we've ever seen, and no one had to qualify. I think that the truckers division or something, obviously you might have had to qualify, but I think anyone could have shown up.
The truckers division, you had to have a trucker's license. So
yeah, but other than that, and it's the most prestigious. God forbid.
But I believe John went out and got himself a trucker's license so he could pull for the big prize. I don't think he actually ever drove a truck. But
God forbid 18,000 people go to Orlando, spend money in a hotel. So the city is booming. It gets an economical boost. The tournament the people that run the tournament have a boatload of cash that come through. I mean, God forbid this happens, right? Like, let it happen. The next year, maybe they'll start paying out to the arm wrestlers. Top 3 will get money. Like, I don't know. Maybe this could be a pro-am thing. I don't know. But I know that, forcing qualification is weak.
You mentioned over the top, and Bryce is saying, tell the Miles Wilco story. Miles told me once that he was at over the top, and he crawled up inside the semi that was there and helped himself to the radar detector that was in it. And I was telling John the story, and I said, hey, John, I know who got the radar detector out of your truck. And he instantly said, tell Miles I want it back.
Yeah. and like, any idiot off the street didn't go over the top because they know that the studs are going to show up and they're just going to get rinsed and embarrassed. So even though it's like, well, everyone's going to show up, not everyone's going to show up. You might get the odd idiot, but you're not going to get everyone off the street, because just like if they opened up an all MMA tournament, world championship, and anyone can go, I'm not going, because I'm not going to get my head knocked off. This isn't my arena. This isn't my plane of expertise, or the sport that I've chosen, so I won't do it. So you're going to get arm wrestlers. You're just going to get a shitload of them that saved money by not having to go to qualification and qualifiers, and ready to have a blast and have fun. I don't know. I don't see a downside. And if you're worried about safety and injuries, there's ways to fix that as well. Like I said, to prove that only quote unquote legitimate arm wrestlers can compete, so you don't have idiots off the street. You could do that if you wanted to without having 14 qualifiers all over North America. You can do that. Options are good.
So what do you want to explore next? Do you want to talk about the top 8, or we're going to talk about Zloty? Because there's a lot of comments in here.
Yeah. Let's, well, first of all, shout out to Herman Stevens, who won the IFA 95 kilo world title. Good for him.
Did Herman actually intend to arm wrestle in the IFA worlds, or was it just kind of something he decided on once he was over there?
No, I think that's what his goal was, and to because he doesn't have a world title, and a world title, and that is a legit world title, regardless of what you think, because of the lack of volume. And then pulls Zloty a couple days later. I talked to him, and he said his right arm, both his arms were kind of, his left was really ginger, but his right he felt was going into Zloty was okay. I don't think he did very well, but I mean, that's 4 days of pulling. So I know that Bowen got rinsed. I believe he got 1 win, and that was a win on elbow fouls versus a guy that had complete control over him. So basically he went 2 and out. That's a little bit of a shock. I predicted he'd get a couple wins. I predicted 2, finish middle of the pack. I'm not shocked that he didn't do that well, because he doesn't have the horsepower, and I've always said that the numbers you put in the gym or on cables is not indicative of your arm wrestling on the table power. It can be, but it doesn't automatically make it so. 3 months or 4 months of using the Todd Hutchins side pressure template does not turn you into Todd Hutchins. Todd Hutchins, even before he started arm wrestling, was doing archery, which has significant carryover to your elbow. So even before he started arm wrestling, he had probably superior side pressure potential. So I mean, a lot of people using his template, expecting it to work, doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And I've talked to many arm wrestlers, and I was asking Devin Larrett once at a tournament, what do you think I should do? He said, I have no idea. I'm not you. And smarter words could not have been spoken, because we all have different strengths. And for me, like when I look at the style that Bowen had when he pulled in WAL, it made no sense to me that he would be training under Todd Hutchings' system and trying to get stronger in that one particular vector. I mean, add it in, but don't make it the focus of your training, because he did get caught in his starting position quite a bit in that tournament. From the matches that I saw, he had a slight bend back in the wrist, and he was trying to initiate that. Mm-hmm. But then you have, I just want to throw these out there because we have some pretty, like, into the Zloty. We have Ron Klemba jumping in there. We got Gary McDonald from Canada jumping in there, won a world championship in the Grandmasters, jumps into Zloty. So did Joe Fox. Herman ended up 8th left arm, and left arm is interesting because we had the overall champion, Krasimir. So guess who I asked for the WAL if they decide to keep the left arm division?
Man,
and he beats Dmitry Salayev in the finals. It was
left arm.
Left arm.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, he beat him in the overall.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a stud, man. Bulgaria. Then again, like, adopting, 8 months out of an event, adopting a power arm wrestling philosophy in your training to pull people that have been doing it for 20 years or 15 years doesn't make sense. I hope he stays on this trajectory, and he doesn't. I know Brian. He'll be disappointed, but not to the point where it's going to take him off his path. I'm not worried about that. Probably a good kick in the ass that he needed to keep forward on emphasizing power arm wrestling and not running and being evasive and being crafty. Crafty doesn't work at that level. Power, stamina, speed, in that order. No parlor tricks.
Yeah. Well, how about Daniel Mosier?
Man, props for that guy. Fuck, right across the pond. Made losing weight. Taking second in the finals. Good for him, man. Well, super representing the USA. Did well. Good guy. I saw the final match. He wasn't exactly out of his league, right? But then again, it wasn't the strongest Zloty we've ever seen. Much like the Worlds was not the strongest Worlds we've ever seen, but it was still Zloty Tur. It was still Nemiroff. Yeah. It was still a good tournament. And props to him for getting silver. And man, those trophies looked fucking amazing. Jesus Christ!
You see those things? You see that one that Salayev won in the right arm overall?
And what about Sarah pulling in a sling? Like, Jesus! Man, I made a decision many years ago that I wasn't interested in procreating or having kids. But I'll tell you something: if I had a chance to procreate with her because of those fucking genes, and I'm not talking the physical genes, like the balls it takes to do that, like that's impressive as hell. Just the image of an arm wrestler pulling left with a right hand off not grabbing the peg because it's in a sling, and people are like, well, it's left arm; it doesn't really affect her right arm. Man, sling your arm against your torso and pull with the left and see how much power you lose. And she still went undefeated. That's crazy. Props to her. I know Gabrielle had her San Diego event this weekend as well. I caught a little bit of that. It looked like a success. So props to Gabrielle on that side on this side of the pond.
And we got I got to throw it out there. Joe Fox, 7th place, 95 kilo class at Zloty Tur. That's ahead of Makiv. It's ahead of Bowen. That's even ahead of Herman.
But in defense of those other guys, like really, 7th. The difference between 7th and 13th is a draw and a bye.
True. Like that's right.
Who did he? I mean, props to Joe. I mean, whatever. But who did he beat? Right? He didn't pull Bowen. He didn't pull Stevens. He didn't pull McKeith. I mean,
Allen.
I mean, you and I could be put in the same class of 25 people, and it's conceivable that depending on who gets to draw, you get a terrible draw, I get a bye, and an easy draw. It's conceivable you finish 19th and I finish 18th. Am I better than you? Shit, I can't touch you with 2 arms. So sometimes these things are a little bit misinterpreted. But hey, fuck, he went, he pulled, and I think it's kind of cool that both were on the same time or in the same place. I don't know if it was the same. It wasn't the same venue, I don't think, but it allowed Canadians for the first time to compete, go to Worlds, and then a day later, go pull the most prestigious pro event we've ever seen, or the sport has seen in the last decade. So it just seemed What I got from this whole weekend, following it on Facebook, is it just seemed fun. People having just a blast, meeting people, taking pictures with people, pulling after pulling, everything just looked great. It just people having tons of fun, which is at the end of the day what pretty much arm wrestling is meant to be. Good stuff.
Okay, you want to start unpacking the super matches?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are pretty easy to talk about. I mean, 6-0 finishes almost all of them.
Yeah.
Um,
I just heard like a couple hours ago that Tim might have got injured. I didn't see the match. I didn't see him and Truman, but I heard in the first match he got hurt, and I hope it's not a serious injury.
well, it can't be that bad. He's calling out guys. So,
Wow, awesome.
yeah. So in interviews that followed, he did make some call outs. I don't recall who it was, but I mean,
Oh, it's his thumb. I heard it's his thumb. Okay, that's
oh yeah, he dislocated his thumb was pulled right out of the socket. He said by Truman, but Truman looked good. He's somewhere in between that range, though. The guy that impressed me was
Perdiccia.
yes,
Perdiccia.
exactly.
I mean, I would have lost money on that one. The guy looks he's obviously strong as shit. We're looking at 6'7", 300 plus, like an offensive lineman type build. I mean, bigger man than you, if that's even how as hard as that is to conceive. But he's sloppy, right? He's got, he's fairly new in the sport, and he's going against fucking a machine, right? A well-oiled machine that's been killing big guys, small guys, medium guys for over a decade. I would have lost money on this.
So would I. I would have bet 6-0 the other way.
No, but geez, man, good for the big fella. And I know the problem with a big guy with a big name coming into the sport and not doing well early usually spits them out, because usually big guys have a big ego and they're used to being having things their way, and just being on top of things. I know the first round he didn't do well, and in Moldova he took some losses, but sticks with it. And now hopefully this is definitely legit, and I hope this just fucking pushes him into the next level, and he stays for a while, because he's colorful, he's animated, he's big, he's strong. He gets excited. And looks good moving forward.
And you just saw him get better and better as the tournament progressed. So and ends with a good win.
Huge win, yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to arm wrestle him someday. Although I fear that I will have to go overseas to make that happen.
Yeah, I think left you get him, and I think right you're in trouble. But maybe not. He still looks susceptible in certain areas, of course. But
yeah, he likes to create distance between the table with his body, which I found maybe it's just so because he's so huge. But
how would you handicap yourself versus Rustam right-handed? Do you favor yourself?
He would be an incredibly tough match, because he's got that short little arm and
tons of cupping. Like he would put so much pressure and leverage onto your pronator, and you need your pronator. Without your pronator, if you were underneath him, I think you'd be in a lot of trouble. And I don't know, like I'm thinking to myself who I would bet on. Man, that's a tough one. But fuck,
that would be tough. And I don't think the rule set would matter much in that match. It'd just be who can get their spot.
Yeah.
And even then, like, he is a powerful guy and a true veteran, and maybe he just couldn't deal with the massiveness of the other dude, who is obviously big and strong.
And look at his hand too. Like Rustam has, even for his weight, has a very powerful wrist. I mean, the guy, but his hand is below average in terms of length in his own weight class. And Alex looks like he has a giant, long, thick hand. And I didn't see the match. I for the life of me, I couldn't find any of the footage on that match, except I just got the result. I'm imagining Rustam had a hard time getting a bite on the guy's hand, like to get a hook in.
I was watching it on SATV, which is the Swedish arm wrestling YouTube channel, and all there was still images with him commentating around the stills. The only footage I actually saw was the Levon match, but we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
Who's next? Angrabayev and
Prudnik. 4-2. Yeah, 4-2 Prudnik.
Possibly the, well, I mean, on as the result goes, it's the best match that they put together of the whole card, of the entire, probably every match in the top 8 they've had all season.
Event, yeah. And these two are, roughly the same weight class. Both very versatile. Both can go anywhere. Both have stamina. I mean, this was the most interesting matchup for me in the whole top 8 event. I just think Prudnik probably had just a little bit more arm. His ace move was probably a little bit better than Angrabayev's ace move. Again, didn't see any footage. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I had Prudnik as a favorite in that match, but not by a big margin. I just knew he had a little bit more arm and but Angrabayev had a little bit more speed, but Prudnik's just an amazing arm wrestler. You could argue he might be pound for pound, and he's 230. Like he's just he's incredible.
And then you've got Angrabayev and Babayev heading over to the 95 kilo top 8 next year. That's the rumor, anyway. I don't have a reliable source on that.
And Ryan Bowen. Don't forget about Ryan Bowen.
Well, Ryan has some restructuring to do, and I think he's. Let's face it, he's done some good things in his very short time in the sport. But
when you put yourself
out for that yet,
when you put yourself out there, which I totally endorse, when it doesn't work out the way you profess, you have to eat. You have to eat shit, and he'll eat shit, and it's good to eat shit. I mean, when I lost to him at the bottom 8, I eat tons of shit from a bunch of Australians that I've never heard of, and it was warranted. Like, what do you want? I predicted I'd win. I lost. You take it, and he'll take it, and he'll be better because of it. These things are needed in a career, in a path.
He would have taken shit even if he won.
Yeah, he has so many haters. He has, for sure.
Interesting. Somebody on here said someone here in Florida was streaming the event on Twitch, and now they're potentially being sued. I don't recall what the pay-per-view cost, but I heard it was a lot. It wasn't the $3 that WAL charges, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how any of those things work. But I figure if he paid for the pay-per-view to get access to it, I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the laws are. Who knows?
Yeah, you can't restream it because you're potentially affecting the income of the person that's putting it out there in the first place. So those are the rules. Who are we missing? Have we talked about 3 matches?
Well, the Levon.
I guess Ron to Levon.
Again, I saw stills. I know it's 6-0. I did see one match. I think it was the last one.
I can tell you, they all looked pretty much the same.
Yeah, Vitaly threatened him high, but couldn't get clean cross over his hand. And then Levon, 10 seconds later, gets a little bit more of a bite and uses his side pressure and pins him. That's what it looked like to me. Not unexpected. I had Vitaly only because I thought he was so strong and hard up top, and Levon, his weakness was protecting up top. I mean, we saw Angrabayev crack him somewhat. So, he's the inferior arm wrestler in terms of technical skills, but powerful dude, man. He can be on top of the mountain for a long time if he wants. Very long time.
Yeah, and I know that Lallison wasn't trying to go. Well, he might have been. It looked like he was trying to low-hand top roll against a posting top roll, which Levon just looked so powerful, and he seems to have closed up those paths that were open, which would have been his wrist potentially, and he looked devastatingly powerful. That being, and before I say this next statement, I want to just touch on the comments in the section here. Back on the suing thing, that being sued, the total viewers times the cost of the pay-per-view, which is like $5,000. You can find the link on Reddit. I'll post it if that's okay. Hey, post wherever you want. Levon came to play, made a big statement by defending Vitali's incredible dragging top roll. First match was close. Vitali looked burned out after that. All the others were easy for Levon. Vitali wasn't able to take Levon's hand fully. I didn't take it even a little bit as far as what I saw. And when it did get threatened that way, there was a slip and they went to the straps, which favored Levon. And then we have this match that everyone's talking about. Monster Michael Todd versus Levon.
Come on, man.
It's out there. You don't think it would be an entertaining match?
Well, I can guarantee it'd be entertaining because one guy would be crying and whining. Michael would feel underwhelmed. He hates losing. Win at all cost versus a guy who has more hand, more arm, more everything.
Do you think Levon could, over 6 rounds, could Michael tire him out enough with the King's move?
Yes, he can.
To potentially win that match.
He could, but 6 rounds is not arm wrestling. It doesn't. But for me, it's you get smoked 3 in a row, and then all of a sudden the other guy starts burning out. Like when you were in high school and one guy says, "I think I'm stronger. Let's arm wrestle," and you say, "Let's do it. Let's do it 15 times to see who's better." I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But of course, based on the rules, if Levon came and pulled Wall, I'd be nervous a little bit. I'd favor him, but I'd be definitely nervous because the junk that comes, the reffing, the table, the pad, everything favors that junk move. But if it happened in Poland, if it happened under rigid rules,
it would be harder.
I think Todd's a lot of trouble. And why I think it's not because Levon's much stronger, it's his hand. I think he can get a full bite. And in the strap, if he gets caught up, I think he can press. Like, he's a tall guy. He's got tons of shoulder. I think he's got everything. He's like Saplenkov with a little bit more of everything, maybe. And Saplenkov beat Michael Todd at Arnold's. So, but it's a great matchup. I could tell you that Michael Todd has a better chance of beating him than Devin Lorette. I could tell you that. Or Dave Chafee. Only because that move can hang a guy up. And all he needs to do is hang the guy up once, right? And Levon keeps banging away at it, and he just fades and he's done. And then Michael comes out the rest of the rounds. That's what that move does. It's almost like the sleeper hold in wrestling because they'll fucking put you to sleep, put the spectators to sleep too. But
somebody in the comments says, "What if Devin beats Mike? It doesn't matter. It's still Michael Todd has a better chance to beat Levon."
Yeah, it's a better King's move, right? It's a better King. When Michael's underneath, and he's heavier, bigger bone density, stuff like that, I think he defends better. He has more of a press once it comes back up to neutral. And I think he might have more stamina than Devin when opened because he's been doing it for so much longer. But I could tell you what happened with Devin and Dennis. I don't think Devin would even take that match. He was so embarrassed versus Dennis that the idea of pulling, well, in Europe, the idea of him going to Europe and pulling a guy that's 100 pounds heavier with a bigger, thicker, longer hand, with more power everywhere, with rigid reffing, and not being a hook bicep defensive puller anymore, means that once his circus trick doesn't work, he's just going to be slapped. And I think he won't put himself in that position. Would he pull him at a wall? Maybe. But I don't think that's a match he wants. I don't think it's a match anyone wants. The guy's obviously the fucking Mac Daddy of arm wrestling right now. If you think you have a shot at him, you're not paying attention. I mean, but we'll see. Will he ever come over to Wall? Will we ever see him over here? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that PAL will hold on to him, and they should make it lucrative enough that that's what happens.
Yeah, and I hope he stays there with rigid rules because the only way I think he can get beat is by shitty reffing and circus parlor moves. So if I'm his coach or his manager, I'm like, you're the man right now. There's no one or there's no handicapping alive that can have you as an underdog versus anyone. So stay in your home, have people come to you on your at your table with your rules, and just smash them for the next 15 years. My only fear with him is that he's so dominant and so good that he might get bored and leave. and do something with more that potentially could have more money.
Well,
That's my
Levon's never going to enter bobsledding or anything like that.
no, but sometimes when things are easy, who knows? But I don't think it's gonna happen. But I think there's a better chance of him leaving than someone beating him. I can tell you that he looks that good, and I hope that he's paid well and he stays in and he makes a ton because he deserves it. He's got everything.
It would be interesting to see a completely healthy and trained up Dave Chafee arm wrestle him, simply because you're going to have a power versus power match. Nobody's going to try to get in a position and wear the other guy out with a king's move or anything like that.
Dave has the hand and the arm. Also, Dennis, if Dennis ever makes a full comeback and gets healthy and strong again, that could be a dynamite match. Yeah, there's a couple scenarios out there that are interesting, but right now he just went through the top 8, which just a superstar elite, a bunch of guys that he just ran through. He looks awesome. One guy asked me, I think before we go too far, he asked me what I predicted I'd do in bottom 8, and I think I was reluctant to give a prediction, but I definitely didn't predict. I predicted I'd get through Ryan. But I predicted Evan was going to win that all the way right from the beginning, and I had nothing for Evan. I thought if Craig held him up and he got fatigued, there is a chance if I made it around later that I can get Evan. But that was it wasn't very likely, only because Evan has a shitload of stamina. So I did not have my chances my chances of winning that in my own mind were not very good at all. I wasn't even certain. I predicted, of course, online that I'd beat Ryan because I kind of had to, and I believed I could. But I was reluctant to bet him $1,000. So when I'm reluctant to bet $1,000, it's because I don't have a full belief I can do it. I always say you always know how someone fully believes what they can do and how much money they back themselves. And I was not going to back myself with even $500 against Ryan. He was bigger, heavier, and it was right arm. So just to answer that question.
There was a question out there, and this is an interesting one. Is there anyone other than Levon that can beat Vitali?
No.
Interesting.
That's a great question. I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, Vitali got lined up versus the only guy that can bust his hand, or not really bust his hand, but hold him off and pin him like that.
He is a huge guy. Like, I stand next to Levon, and I'm taller than him. When I stand next to Vitali, which I have, I mean,
6'8"? Is it 6'8"?
Yeah, he's a massive guy, and he's got so much room to grow and fill out. Like,
yeah, scary.
He potentially he could be like Levon could enjoy a few years on top, but
He reminds me of a puller Russia had back in the 80s and 90s named Alan Karyev, who was about, I think Alan wasn't 6'8", but he was like 6'6" and like 400 pounds. Imagine if Vitali fills out, right? Because what is he? He's 6'7" and a half, 6'8" at what? He's not close to 300 pounds, is he? No. And even if he was 300 pounds, you could argue he's lightweight. So can you imagine if he got into the 350, 360, 370? Wow. Yeah.
Well, Evan's asking, did we cover the Bresnan match? Yeah, we did. Karyev had the clue. Well, you remember Alan Karyev actually showed up when we were in Tokyo in 2005. He was a special guest. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what he was doing there, but I know that he had a mixed martial arts career for a little while. Didn't do super well because he can't move very well because he's such a huge guy. I think he might have actually done sumo for a little while too.
He did, yeah.
So
I remember in Tokyo when he was there, and I didn't really know who he was. I just saw a really big guy. I had a picture taken, or someone on Canada had a picture taken with me putting my full hand in the palm of his hand, and fingers extended. I was in the palm of his hand, like that's how big his hand was. Of course, I don't have a big hand, but that's still a huge hand. Yeah, that's crazy.
I've got an old photo with him somewhere. I'm going to dig out and post if I can find it. All right, what else we got? What's coming up? Man, we didn't.
I want to give props to Jason Debray for winning a super match at a little bit of a touch on Canadian stuff here. winning a Superman versus, and I had your boy Frazier winning that. So props to Debray for winning that in Thunder Bay. Hopefully he stays kicking ass. Other than that,
Well, Dubray is a world champion. Frazier sounds like he might take a run at it in Orlando next year. I mean, I think Frazier's got to be close to Grandmasters.
mhm.
I don't know if he'll be quite there next year, but getting closer.
Yeah. Do you think Trubin would have finished top 3 if he didn't have Levan first round?
That's a toss up for me. I don't know if I would.
No. I don't.
Maybe I would have been surprised, but I think there's a couple other guys in there that could probably take him out.
Yeah, Trubin's a physical specimen, but there's some, and he totally out arm wrestled Michael Todd at Vendetta a couple years ago. So he has the ability to be a great arm wrestler, but we don't always see it. We see great numbers. We see great curling numbers in his gym workouts and on Facebook and stuff. We see some amazing things from him, but he has yet to fulfill that ceiling. He has such a ceiling of potential, physical potential, and it just seems that he's struggling to fulfill it. But so no, to answer the question, I don't think he would have won it because I think Vitaly beats him. Prudnik arguably beats him. I mean, Trubin has some holes there. He has some looks fantastic, and sometimes he arm wrestles fantastic, but it's not always the case with him.
So somebody reminded me in the comments section, do you think IFA was a much easier tournament than Zloty? Yes.
Of course.
Of course it was. There's drug testing in IFA.
Mm-hmm.
There were some comments earlier about performance enhancement and stuff like that. It shouldn't be a shock to anybody that happens when there is no drug testing, and even sometimes when there is drug testing, performance enhancing drugs will be used.
Yeah.
Some people roll the dice, some people stay away from it when they go to the World Championship. Some people avoid drug tested events altogether, and that's their choice. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, Gabi. Like, where do you stand on whether or not performance enhancement should even be regulated? Because there's definitely not a level playing field when we're looking at different countries and what they have the ability to do and hide versus, say, Canada, where essentially you would be looking at the black market for whatever you think is this, and you might not even get the right stuff.
The idea that there can ever be a level playing field is a myth anyway. Trying to establish that is a mistake. I don't believe in drug testing in anything. Let anyone do whatever they want to do. If they want to jeopardize their health, or if they want to, let them do it. I don't ever care what anyone else does when I'm trying to do something. And I think it, in terms of the sport and spectators, we want to see the biggest, strongest. We want to attract, and I still don't think that, I know it's an advantage, but man, fuck, I don't know. I just don't think it's good for the sport. I don't know. I just think people that think, I think it's also, people use it as I didn't do as well as I could because I think this guy was juicing. Yeah, maybe. But I've seen you lose 150 matches against guys that don't juice. Yeah. People use excuses to circumvent certain things. And I just think, do what you want, bring your best game. Let's all show up under the same roof. 1,000, 2,000, 50,000. Let's have a blast and let's see who stands in the end. I just don't think it. First of all, in any anti-doping scheme, there's ways to move around it. There's ways to go long esters to short esters. I mean, the only way would be random drug testing throughout the year, and even then, the cost in our sport does not make fucking sense. It doesn't make sense. And I think in any sport, when you hear the president or the CEO of anything, well, we think we should test. They don't believe they should be tested. There's pressure coming from political pressure, or there's pressure coming from people. But you're Your brand never becomes better because you limit. It's in the unlimited things become awesome. So for me, they can test, they cannot test. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. I just in any sport I prefer non-tested. Someone asked me, my mom asked me a couple weeks ago, why didn't you watch the Grey Cup CFL? And I'm a big football fan. I said I only watch NFL. She said why? I said, well, I don't have unlimited amount of hours to watch sports. So if I'm going to watch baseball, I want to see the absolute best. I'm not the type of guy that's going to go across the street and watch teenagers play pickup hockey at the ice rink. If I'm going to spend time watching hockey, I want to see the absolute best. If I'm watching football, I want to see the absolute best on the planet. And if I'm watching arm wrestling, I want to see the absolute best, not the ones that are the naturally best, naturally, or the ones that didn't decide to go because they're on stuff.
Yeah.
They take stuff. I think everyone over 40 should be on stuff, moderate stuff and certain stuff. But it has a bad stigma, and for a lot of people, it's they use it as a crutch. Oh, if only I took stuff, or oh, I would have tasted better if this guy.
Oh,
Shut up.
those comments, yeah. But I mean, there's lots of guys that take a lot of stuff and never do well anyway. So
Yeah, but I do what you want, man. I've never been a guy that cares what other people do. Just don't stop me. Don't stop me from doing what I want to do, and do what you want.
if there's a comment, I want to address some of these comments. Like one guy says Sabin got busted for only 2D-ball. If he got busted for 2D-ball, then he must have taken it on his way to the drug testing room. And that he deserves to be caught for. Did you guys see about Russia being banned from the Olympics? Yes, saw that. Will it roll over into WAF IFA? Probably not. I do know that I can offer you some insight because at one point in all the WAF tests, it was like 90 something percent was coming back Russian positive drug tests, and all the people getting caught. It got so bad that WAF started actually, because I was on the board at the time, I was on the in the Congress meeting too, and I heard this conversation. There was a fine being issued to the coach because they had given up on trying to just regulate the arm wrestler.
I think it's funny because everything we do as men, from the time we're fucking 15, 16 till the time we die, or till we're like almost dead, is focus on being stronger. We obsess about dieting, we obsess about training, we hire trainers, we ask advice, we do this, we do that. Everything we do, creatine, we go into GNC and drop $200 every couple months, everything. But taking something that actually works, and people are like, well, it's unhealthy, it'll kill you. Yeah. So taking a bottle of Tylenol, right? It can make you healthier as your health depletes in age. It can add years to your life. The problem is with most things, it's with abuse. But the line in the sand we're gonna use is on pharmaceuticals. I got news for you. Pharmaceuticals are in your life whether you want it or not. But whatever. Like, I have no vested interest. I don't. People can do what they want. But for me, I don't believe in qualification. I don't believe in restrictions. I don't believe in limits. Let's have at it.
Somebody mentioned Arsene Liliev. What happened to that guy?
One of the best posting top roles in the history of arm wrestling.
Where is he?
Fuck, I don't know. He got banned. It got banned hard, and then he faded. And then I heard rumors of him coming back, and you see videos of him training again or on the table, and then boom, like it's gone again. I don't know.
And then there was we talked about doing that. Where are they now? And we have some Florida guys in the comments section. So I want to ask, like, this is one thing, and I've had a few people mention this name to me. Wilton Brock. Where the hell is that guy?
Yeah.
Because he was actually in the WAL and making some noise, and he's a young, fit guy who was beating a lot of people, myself included, in the earlier WAL events. And then all of a sudden he just vanished. He was gone. So, any of the Florida guys, if you know where Wilton Brock is, just give us an update in the comments section.
Mm-hmm.
And Denis Saplenkov coming back, man, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, he looks okay. The pictures from the event over there, he looks good, but he looks like a shadow of his former self.
Yeah, and the amount of, like, Levan is, you can believe he's natural. He's just a big, huge guy. But Saplenkov, what he needed to do to become one of the strongest motherfuckers out there is like we're talking about abuse and moderation. That fucker was abuse and past, right? And so is he willing to, after that type of health scare, to get back into take that much shit to become legitimate again? He'd have to be stupid. I mean, at one point, does our life and our longevity come into play more so than arm wrestling royalty? And let's face it, arm wrestling is not making you a millionaire. So it's like I'd be surprised if he'll make a comeback and he'll dabble, but he'll never be the guy that we're talking as a top 3 on the planet. I don't think so, because I don't think he's willing to do that.
Couldn't you argue that that's all he did anyway, was kind of dabble? Like, he wasn't even at his best. He wasn't very active.
Well, I mean, he pulled Zloty 3 years in a row. He had super matches. I mean, he was, his left was untouchable for I mean, he wasn't overly, he didn't go overseas, but I mean, he was as active as most in his area, no, in Eastern Europe. Don't forget, he was Igor's boy, and Igor does not like to put his guys out on the shelf very often, right? He was more come to me. He was more of anticipation and building up the brand rather than have him pull every month. So I don't know if that's so much him rather than his manager / sponsor team. He went to Arnold's once or twice, I believe. I don't think I just think what he had to do to his body, he'd be foolish to do it again. And if he didn't, what kind of puller would he be? Because he was never a good arm wrestler. He got away with being exceptionally strong. That safeguarded his shortcomings, right? So if he doesn't have that level of strength, what can he be? He's not going to come back as a master technician. We know that it's not part of his makeup. So if he's not brutally strong, what is he? Levan is different. Just a huge dude. He's got everything. I believe he fucking. If I found out he was natural, it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me.
That's interesting. I don't know. I can't. I don't have any evidence one way or another to support a hypothesis on what he's doing or isn't doing. But
is he even 30?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how old. He's one of those guys that you can't really tell.
What's that? Major, the guy you pull at Canadians. What's his first name?
Justin.
Major. He came to practice in Montreal for like a couple months, and I knew him and we talked. And then, one day someone says, "Do you know how old he is?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's probably 44." Scruffy beard, and he's like, "Dude, I'm like 19." I'm like, "No, you're 44, 45." I asked him if he was pulling masters. He says, "I'm 19." I said, "Fuck off." And he's 19. Like, some people just, it wouldn't surprise me if Levan is 25 or 61, right? Like, who knows?
Justin told me he's coming to, when he told me he's coming to Turkey, the Worlds in Turkey last year, and he's pulling in that under 21 class. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
And the guy looks like he's 30 years old for sure.
30
and he still does, when he shaves his beard, look like a younger guy. But he's 22 now. So the guy's he's gonna be impressive. Mm-hmm. So we have the super heavyweight class we've got in Canada for coming to Winnipeg. We've got Boschman's saving up his pennies to come and try to take a run at it, but he's focused on me. I think he's in for a big surprise when he runs into some of the Ontario heavyweights.
Could he win the 75 kilo?
Boschman?
Yeah.
He could place top 3 in any class there is, but that's it. And that just depends on who shows up.
I don't think he beats Dan Gallo. Who knows? I mean.
All right, buddy. You ready to wrap her up for the first ever Arm Crossfire live show?
Is it me or are the comments a lot more on the YouTube Live than Facebook?
Well, on YouTube Live, you can also be susceptible to a little bit more trolling because nobody has to sign in with their real account. So we've had some people.
I think next time we do it, I think I'm going to use my iPhone as I'm on the laptop and troll our own show. If that's the case, that's pretty cool though. It's nonstop. It's like I can't even keep up.
There's a hell of a debate going on right now over performance enhancement in the comments section. And somebody had asked earlier, when are we going to do the super chat? Man, I don't even know when we qualify. This is the first time we've done a YouTube live, so I'll start looking. Super chat's basically when somebody pays to have their comment like come in and be highlighted.
Nice.
And yeah, I listened to the Glorious House of Gains podcast, and they're always doing YouTube Live, and they have quite a few super chats coming in. And it's like $20 for them to send one in. And Michael Todd's channel has super chats going on all the time too.
It's nice to see Evan Bogoyan commenting. Usually this time on a Monday he's drunk, so it's nice to see him sober and active this time on social.
At least sober enough that he can still comment without a whole bunch of typos.
Yeah, for sure. He wants to hear about Abby's event. Yeah, we have a promoter having a big event in January, trying to do a 16-man over 200 class and a 16-man under 200. $100 and $100 participant, all money feeding back to top 3 or 4. So like first place, maybe $800 or $1,000, something like that. He's in the process right now of confirming, as you have to pay up front if you're confirmed. So that's getting some interest for sure in both under and over 200 pound weight class.
Oh, Evan. If you wonder what I'm laughing at, go look at the comments. But,
good.
Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap her up, buddy. It's been a slice. Same time next week.
Yeah, let's do it. So this doesn't have to be uploaded. Nothing. Boom. It's
already there. I'll go in there and we got no intro. We got none of that. I'll add a thumbnail to it, but that's it.
Less work for you. I like it.
Right on. All right, guys. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks a lot for joining in, and take care.